All right. For those of you that haven't seen the Odyssey, go watch it. Now that I convinced you, what's good, everyone? I'm Over Exaggeration, your over the top bookworm, and today we're going to be breaking down the Odyssey, Christopher Nolan's interpretation of the Odyssey, which is a beautiful, crafted film based off a poem from a blind barber 3,000 years ago. This was truly a cinematic experience, seeing it in IMAX. I mean, the sound design alone is something that my crappy TV at home could never replicate. And the performances, chef's kiss. For the most part, everyone decides to bring their A game, especially Anne Hathaway. However, the person I want to focus on is a character who only has about 3 minutes of screen time. However, what he lacks in length, he makes up for with sheer aura. And everyone knows that aura is more important than length. Today I'm going to be breaking down Christopher Nolan's interpretation of Agamemnon and explain what those 3 auriful minutes conveyed to me. Now, before we do get started, just be aware that this is my interpretation from what I gathered from seeing Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. This isn't going to be based off of the book, The Odyssey, or the Iliad, just what I conveyed from watching the movie. If you have your own interpretation, great. Love to hear it. Put it in the comments below. Let's discuss. I think it'd be a great time. If you're enjoying the video, please don't hesitate to leave a like, share it with a friend, hit that bell notification, and subscribe. It really helps my channel grow and gives me one step closer to my ultimate goal of making $25. We're currently $25 away from the goal, so, like a long way, but I believe with your help, I shall obtain my goal. And with that being said, let's begin our Odyssey. So Agamemnon is the king of Mycenae and the supreme commander of the Greek forces during the Trojan War. The whole reason for the Trojan War is because they need to retrieve his brother's wife, Helen of Troy. She's been kidnapped, and this is where the Trojan War comes into play, thanks to Odysseus' idea. And the soldiers in the horse go into the city, fight their way through, open the gates of Troy, and there's like 700 bloodthirsty soldiers that enter the city, start killing people. And when Agamemnon was first introduced, the character, in pictures and trailers, I had a mixed response. Some people were like, why does his outfit look like that? It's not accurate. Why can't we see his face properly? Why the hell is Benny Sadie playing him? And they're all valid questions. However, this is where I think Christopher Nolan does a great job answering each one of them with purpose. And if you're someone who thinks that these inaccuracies are annoying, well, I'm not. That's why I'm making this video. So let's break them down. Throughout the movie, Nolan makes it a point not to show Agamemnon's face. It's constantly hidden behind his helmet that only reveals his eyes and his mouth. And at first it could be a little distracting because the way the camera angles are portrayed, you have Agamemnon towering over Odysseus and you can't see his face. So it's like, bro, why is his helmet covering your face? Until we get to the gates of Troy. And I mean, look at him. There's no reason for him to be in the middle just standing by himself. This man real life just said, hey, when the gates open, y'all gotta get out of my way. You know what I mean? I gotta be front and center in the middle. No tactical advantage, no nothing. He just wanted the aura farm. And honestly, I get it because it's working. Look at his armor. I mean, look at how it reflects the moonlight and the fire. It creates this Gojo level infinity around him. And the movie treats him like Gojo too, because no one attacks him or even touches him while he has his armor on. He doesn't attack anyone. He literally just walks in Troy. He really said, "Walk in your trap, take over your trap." Like he doesn't raise his sword once. His men are the ones fighting and killing while he just walking through or farming. And while the scene is epic, it made me ask the question: what is Christopher Nolan trying to tell us with this character? Let's look back at the first criticism. Why does his outfit look like that? It's not accurate. Well, that's true. However, unless you're some sort of historian buff, some big Odyssey fan, let's not act like Hollywood is known for historical accuracies. Let's take a look at Nolan's interpretation and try to see what he's trying to tell us. I mean, look at this picture. Does anyone else look like him? Hell no. He looks like the Dark Knight. And how fitting is it that the Supreme Commander is wearing the shiniest, most protective armor in the entire army? He never lifts his sword to fight. He simply reaps the rewards while his soldiers put their lives on the line. I remember watching the movie when the gates of Troy open. I see this aura. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. Let's see what he does. Let me see him kill someone. Just for him to not do it at all. The camera's just focused on the gold in the back of his helmet the entire time. He watches his soldiers fight while he decides that there's more ore to be farmed. And once I walked out of the theater, I thought to myself, Agamemnon, he reminds me of Lord Farquhar from Shrek. If you haven't watched Shrek, watch it. But Lord Farquhar is this guy who has this enormous ego, and he constantly overcompensates for his short stature. He built this massive fortress, and he altered paintings and statues and mosaics that have him as this towering, muscular ruler. In reality, Fiona chose a monster over a short man. Before sending his knights in the battle, he delivers one of his most famous speeches: "Some of you may die, but the sacrifice I am willing to make." And he says this while safely inside his comically oversized castle. Now let's compare that to Agamemnon. His soldiers have exposed necks and arms, legs, while he's covered from head to toe in this glorious suit of Batman armor. He has men that are crammed inside of his giant wooden horse, sweating, getting dragged across rough terrain, nearly drowning in freezing water, getting stabbed through the horse. All while he stands outside Troy, or a farming, refusing to swing his sword. Nolan's basically telling us,
some of you may die, but it's a sacrifice I am willing to make.
Although he does kill someone, but we'll get to that later. Let's answer the next question. Why can't we see his face properly? Well, throughout storytelling, there's always been this common trope of the enormous, shadowy figure pulling all the strings. My favorite example comes from my favorite piece of media ever, Avatar: The Last Airbender. For 2 full seasons, we never see the face of Fire Lord Ozai. What we do see are the consequences of the 100-Year War, which while he didn't start, he inherited it and made it even worse. We see villages that have been destroyed or occupied by the Fire Nation. We see people who have been imprisoned or worse. We see families that have been torn apart and survivors trying to rebuild their lives without the people they love, their fathers, their mothers, their children. When we see our first glimpse of Ozai's silhouette in Season 1, Episode 8, we're staring at this shadowy, imposing, muscular build that breathes fire. And it makes us ask ourselves, what does this monster actually look like? Let's pause on that and let's go back to Agamemnon. We never truly see his face while he's wearing the armor and even when he's taking it off. We know he's responsible for the death and destruction of Troy. I mean, his reputation precedes itself, and the armor definitely does as well. Stories about the Trojan War are spreading everywhere. I mean, the very first voice that we hear in the Odyssey, fun fact, is Travis Scott, who's playing a blind barber, who's telling the tales of everything that's been happening over the past 10 plus years. And as stories get passed down orally and translated across generations, people naturally reshape characters to fit the versions that they're telling. And Christopher Nolan's doing the exact same thing. I mean, hell, there's even a debate going on about whether Homer actually composed the Iliad and the Odyssey, or whether he just simply wrote stories that he heard before. In one version, Agamemnon can have this commanding, heroic presence, and in some other version, he could just be a demon wearing human skin. And that's the beauty of mythology. It's all interpretation. So I think Nolan decided to keep his face from being shown because it represents some presence in the background, some enormous presence that's pulling the strings. But I also think he chose to hide his face because of the actor he chose to play Agamemnon. And I think in order to understand question 2, we need to first answer and understand question 3, which is, when Benny Safdie was cast as Agamemnon, it was an interesting choice. I mean, it wasn't the most controversial casting decision in the movie, but a lot of people who were familiar with the Iliad and the Odyssey, they were surprised by someone that looks like this was going to play this legendary commander. And honestly, they're right. Because why the hell is Benny Safdie playing this guy? We're talking about an actor and a director who played the character last year in a movie where he was described as having breath so bad it's like someone died in his mouth. That's the least aura-filled thing imaginable. How did Christopher Nolan turn this man into Shea Gilgeous-Alexander 1 year later? And that's exactly the point. Some people, a big man in a suit of armor, take it off with all you, they're genius billionaire playboy philanthropists. That cannot be said about Agamemnon. The Batman armor cannot hide that when he opens his mouth, he sounds like Bowser Jr. The armor can't hide the fact that he's the same man who sacrificed his own daughter. And it certainly can't hide the fact that the moment he gets home, takes off his coat of infinity, he dies. At least when Ozai revealed his face, he was still terrifying. He was like that. He was still flying on one foot and shooting lightning with two hands, and he was pretty attractive. But at least he was this bender that was hyped up to be, and he lived up to it. Agamemnon is the opposite. This towering figure with the shiny armor is revealed to be just a man, an arrogant, cruel man, a man who dies in one of the least badass ways imaginable. And I think that's why Benny Safdie works, because he doesn't naturally have that aura that we expect. I mean, look at him. He looks like a nerd. But the armor creates it. The helmet creates it. The legend, that creates the man. But underneath it all is just a man. When I was writing up this script, I was originally going to say between Lord Farquhar and Philo Ozai, Agamemnon is definitely favoring Lord Farquhar. And it's true, because both characters surround themselves with enormous symbols of power to hide the truth about who they are. But no, Philo Ozai fits right alongside of them, because when he loses his bending, they're no longer afraid of him. He no longer has this commanding presence. He looks like a fish that's out of water. He's just flopped there. All three of them are symbols. What does Agamemnon represent? What could Christopher Nolan be trying to tell us with this interpretation of this character? One interpretation is that Agamemnon represents the inflated human ego. We see the oversized, gleaming armor. We see the camera angles positioning him higher than those. It's imposing, it demands attention, creates this image of some untouchable king. But I think the symbolism goes a little deeper than that as well. Throughout history, some of the deadliest wars have been remembered for surprisingly small, petty reasons. We have the War of Jenkins' Ear, which was named after a sailor who got his ear cut off. Then there's the War of the Bucket, which is a war over a wooden bucket. But both of these wars were deadly and killed thousands. Now, of course, there were deeper political meanings and economical reasons in both of these wars. I mean, the bucket wasn't really about a bucket, and the ear wasn't really about an ear. But that's the point. Time and time throughout history, they show us these enormous amounts of violence that can be justified through a single emotional story, like a symbol or a grievance. And the Trojan War is the same way. It's recognized as being a war that's fought over Helen. And whether that's true or not isn't the point. The point itself is that thousands of people are dying because one woman was taken from her husband. The ones who call the shots, the ones who decide we're going to war, they don't get their hands dirty. Throughout the fall of Troy, Agamemnon, he doesn't fight. He walks. His soldiers kill. His soldiers get killed. His soldiers storm the city. His soldiers do the dangerous Trojan horse mission. He's just covered in shiny armor. The Supreme Commander remains untouched, watching the destruction unfold. I'm not trying to get political, but it reminds us throughout history, soldiers carrying out orders, civilians living with the consequences, the leaders inheriting the victories, claiming you guys did the right thing. But did they? The only people who know what truly happened are the ones who lived it, the ones who had to experience it. And Nolan, he doesn't shy away from showing us the consequences either. I'm not trying to get too much into spoilers, but there's a reason why Athena is dressed the way she's dressed. I was very appalled by her outfit in the pictures, but watching the movie, there's a big reason why she's dressed like that, and it's honestly the best part of the movie. We watch how Odysseus and his men, they were slaughtering not just soldiers, but innocent people. People who had nothing to do with the kidnapping of Helen. Families are losing their homes because the city's burning down based off decisions made by powerful men. And that's what makes Agamemnon modern. Because you could take him out of that shiny armor and suit and just put him in a regular suit. Give him a blue tie. He's a president now. He's a symbol of how ambition, ego, and reputation can push ordinary people into extraordinary violence, while the commanders sit back and the civilians deal with the destruction. The civilians and the ones who fought. It's the same idea by Lord Farquhar.
Some of you may die, but it's a sacrifice I am willing to make.
The difference is Christopher Nolan did it without the comedy. Tragic. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you're new to the channel, which you probably are, and if you like what you heard, please don't hesitate to like the button, hit subscribe, hit the bell. It really helps me a lot. I'm trying to be more consistent and continue to grow my channel. I took a bit of a break, but I'm getting back into the swing of things. I'm mainly a booktube channel, but I want to start branching out to more analysis and deep dives and the things that I like. I recently started a series called The Movies High, where I break down scenes from movies, animes, or any story that gives me this emotional high independence every time I think of this certain piece of media. My first video was on Chainsaw Man, the Reze arc. Unfortunately, you can't watch that video because it's currently banned in 246 territories. I don't know how that's possible, but I spent hours editing and re-uploading the video just to make some progress and get it banned in 247 territories. So whatever I did pissed some other country off, so now it's up by one. So that video is going to take a while before it finally makes its return to my channel. So be on the lookout for that. In the meantime, as I continue to grow and figure out what I'm going to do, eventually I'm going to make a movies high on the Odyssey, and I already know the scene I'm going to use. I'm just waiting until the movie breathes a little bit more in theaters. And also, my socials, my Instagram is down below. And follow me on Storygraph if you're interested in books. I just got the app. This isn't a promotion. I just got the app. I think it's cool. It's kind of like Letterboxd, but for books. So you see my reviews of books that I like, and I'd love to see yours as well. Until then, thank you guys so much for watching. Comment if you have something to say, and I'll see you in the next one. This is Over Exaggeration, your over the top bookworm. Peace.
Good night.